Hey, Ronen.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well. Thanks so much for your time.
Of course. Thank you.
Oh, I see it's a very sunny, bright day there.
Yeah, we got the pool in the background.
That's amazing. Well, unfortunately, it's too cold here to do that, but yeah, hopefully later in the year.
Yes.
First of all, what I love about 911 Lone Star and also about 911 is the fact that the shows honor what real life firefighters do, and we also get to see that they do much more than what the title firefighter says. So I was wondering, how much did your respect change or develop, towards real life firefighters between the time before you were attached to the project and now that you're 2 seasons in?
I think it definitely I think it evolved. I don't think it ever changed necessarily. I grew up around a lot of firefighters and police officers. I grew up in New York, so there's sort of like this very sacred brotherhood in New York when it comes to firefighters because of obviously what happened in 9/11. A lot of my best friends, their dads were firefighters. So I was surrounded by them and always had this, an incredible respect for them and just sort of I'm always in awe of what these men and women do. And then, obviously getting to play one, it reaches another level of respect of, I actually get to put on their uniform, put on their helmet, put on their equipment, get to do, like a tiny percentage of what they do in real life. And just from the stuff that we've done on screen, it's a scary, intense job. And, obviously we're protected and we're not, running into, uncontrollable fires and uncontrollable dangers. But even that, at times it feels scary. And the fact that, these people do it in real life, with unknown dangers, there's no stunt people there. There's no special effects. They don't really know what could happen. Exactly. It's a major honor. And, these really are, I've been saying this from day one. I think they really are our real life. I think they're like the superheroes in real life.
Yeah.
They don't wear capes but they're there on our worst days, and they're there to protect us whenever we need them.
And so, how important is it for you, to get a real firefighter's approval for your work?
That was a big question going into the first season. I think that was at the top of our list of priorities, is to make sure that the actual community in real life approves and enjoys the show. And luckily, knock on wood, it has been. We have a lot of retired firefighters on set to make sure that everything is going smoothly, and make sure everything is authentic and doesn't look phony. And a lot of them are like retired captains, and they have they have conversations with people all over the state, all over the city. And they the thing that people always say from that community is that our show is realistic and fun, and they really appreciate that we get to show their sort of personal side, because usually all we know is when they're in danger. But I think the beauty of our show is that we get to show their personal side and their human side, which I don't think we get to see very often. And at the end of the day, they're all just regular people. They just have really crazy jobs. So far, so good. We've had a tremendous amount of respect and gratitude from the real people.
That is amazing, because of course you don't want to hear from real life firefighters, well, that is very not as it is, or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
What I also love about the show is the fact that you guys are very diverse, not only in front of the camera but also behind the camera.
Oh, yeah.
What I love especially about that is the fact that we get to see, a lot of different cultures, a lot of different sexualities. And the beautiful thing about it is that we get to see that it's not about that. You don't have to share the same background in order to connect with someone else. So, and I feel like that's a very beautiful message to show. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And I think, you know, it's definitely past time that we are doing this. You know, I think it's, I mean, it's the way the world is, you know, and it's who our viewers are. It's, you know, it's about time that we're starting to show people the way they are, you know, and I love that we're normalizing it, because it is normal. And, you know, it's sort of a reflection of who we are. You know, we're
Right.
all different kinds of people from all different walks of life, all different genders, all different, you know, ethnicities, all different races. And it's beautiful that we get to show that in a respectful and honest way. But also, I think the biggest thing is that we're showing it on a major network, you know, and you
Right.
don't usually see that on, you know, on network television.
Exactly.
Especially with the topics that we talk about. You know, you see that usually in cable or streaming, you know, areas where you're allowed to be a bit more edgy. But I you know, I think that's complete horseshit. I think there's nothing edgy about it. It's just it's the way it is, you know, and there's all different kinds of people, and I love that we get to portray them in a respectful way. And, you know, it all comes down to our creator, Ryan Murphy. You know, he's been doing this for what, 20 years now. He's been pushing the boundaries, you know, and he's the reason we're all here. And you know, he's the trailblazer for this kind of stuff. And you know, it's an honor to sort of wear his name as a badge of honor. And you know, it's probably the greatest leader to have when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and would you say, you know, the fact that the show is normalizing it, you know, in the show, do you believe that is also helping to normalize it for the audience?
150%. I personally have tremendous experience with that. You know, I'm very vocal on social media. I'm very open on social media. I invite people to tell me their stories and to share their experiences. And, you know, I've spoken to probably tens of thousands of people at this point about what the show has meant to them, how it's changed their lives, how it's, you know, made them more comfortable in their skin. I've had thousands of people tell me that they've come out to their conservative parents or their, you know, conservative friends. And, you know, a lot of people, even in the fire department, personally, in the fire department, I've had a handful of men come out to me and reveal that, you know, they've been hiding their true identity because for some reason in the fire department community, there's still sort of this taboo about being gay. And a lot of them, you know, I was maybe the first person that they ever truly revealed who they were. And, you know, the fact that a TV show could do that or a character could do that, it's, I mean, I never expected this from doing what I do. But now, you know, my eyes are completely open to sort of the responsibility and the power that we have with you know, with portraying characters. And it's a beautiful thing. It's for me, it's the greatest compliment, greatest award, greatest accolade you could ever ask for is like actually changing people's lives. Like that. I still have a hard time wrapping my head around it, but it's a beautiful thing.
That's amazing because, I mean, so many people say, well, TV and cinema, that's entertainment only and nothing else. But stories like that show that there can be so much more to it, and that certain shows and movies are really able to change persons' lives.
It's so true. You know, my sort of escape growing up was film. You know, it's if you're having a bad day or if you don't believe in yourself or if things aren't going well or you don't know what you want to do with your life, you know, as a kid, it's, you know, it could be a scary place to be in, you know, because the world is, you know, it's so big and it could be, you know, extremely uncertain. And I found that, you know, film and television, for me, it was television later on, but I grew up on film. You know, that was sort of my therapy. That was my escape. There was characters that I would sort of, you know, I would latch onto and look for, you know, some sort of, you know, escapism or inspiration. And and now the fact that it comes full circle, and now I'm that for so many people, and especially young people, which is crazy because, it's the future generations.
Right.
The fact that now I've sort of stepped into this place, it's unbelievable, man. If you would have asked me when I was, a kid, if I was going to be in this place, I would not believe you at all.
Really?
So yeah, it's way more than just entertainment, especially with how accessible entertainment is now. You can, our show is watched all over the world, like truly
Exactly.
from the smallest towns you can't even imagine. It's sort of the beauty of this age that we live in, where content is so accessible, and I think it's an advantage for a lot of people, because a lot of people might not have ever even heard of the show or been able to access it maybe 5-10 years ago.
Absolutely, yes. It was just completely different back then. It's very fascinating, that the show, sometimes we get to see hateful characters, but mostly we get to see, like the positive reactions. But sometimes we get to see, what comes to mind here is for example, the women that pretended to have a heart attack, and then in that moment we realized what she really believes and what she really thinks about non-heterosexual people and non-white people, and hopefully that will make hateful people become a little bit less hateful. So I was wondering, what do you believe why certain people kind of refuse, to see more in a person than just the culture or the sexuality? What do you think why certain people simply try to stop themselves from really getting to know someone?
That's a fantastic question. I've done a lot of these. I've never been asked that. I thought I would be asked this much earlier, but Jesus, that's a loaded question. This is something that I feel like not just America, I feel like a lot of the world has been asking themselves with the past year that we have, especially with Black Lives Matter and sort of this, like there's been a racial, I think there's been a revolution brewing. And literally I was just posting all last night, there's been a massive bill that just passed the House in the American government. And if it gets passed in the Senate, it could truly change the entire world of police brutality. Mm-hmm. So I think, things are happening and things are working, but I think it's a generational thing. I think it's it's where you come from, how you're raised, because at the end of the day, nobody is born racist. Nobody is born homophobic. Right. We're very much like puppies. I think when we're born, you have a baby and you have a puppy. You could teach that baby to become, a hateful person, or you could teach it to become very loving and caring, and you could teach that puppy to be very sweet and nurturing, or you could teach it to be a fighter, and kill other dogs. Nobody's born this way. So I think that's a big part of it, and obviously in America, I mean, our country was literally stemmed on racism and was created on racism. So, you only have to go back a few generations to see where this comes from. It's not rocket science. But I think the beauty of this is that, if these older generations are sort of stuck in their ways, I think it's up to the younger generations, maybe their children, their grandchildren, to sort of come up to them and be like, listen, this isn't right. The way that you've sort of been taught to think and the way you've been raised, this isn't right. There's first of all, no reason for it. And, let me show you why it isn't right. And let me show you why we should love each other, and I think that's what happened, especially what happened last year. I think a lot of people sort of maybe have opened their eyes for the first time ever. And, there's been a lot of coming together. I think as a planet, not just America, because you were seeing marches all over the world. especially in Germany and,
Yeah,
literally everywhere. So I think it's a generational thing, but I think just like anything else, if you really want to, you could grow out of it. You could learn a different way of seeing things. You could learn to empathize with people. And hopefully at the end of the day, you could learn that the way that you feel and the way that you've been taught to think, it's just wrong. There's no reason to hate somebody for, the color of their skin or
absolutely
who they're attracted to, or, how they see themselves. There's just really no reason. And it's like John Lennon said, all you need is love, and it's true. If you replace hate with love, I mean, I think we would be in a much better place than we are now. But I think last year people sort of started to come around to that. And, I think you see a lot of change coming, especially, in the political climate of America. I think people are sort of sick and tired of being hateful and of hateful people. So yeah, that was a very long answer. I'm sorry.
No, but that was a great answer. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's very interesting what you just said, because very often people believe that you can only learn from older people because they have more life experience and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But of course, older people can also learn from younger generations, of course. So it goes both ways.
Of course. I mean, look, if you ask my grandfather how he feels about the world today, he's in his 80s and he comes from Soviet Russia. I mean, he literally came from when it was the Russian Empire. I'm not going to expect him to, completely see eye to eye with me. But just because he came from that world and I'm in this world, there's no reason to say that I don't know anything and he knows everything. It's literally two different worlds. Like, those are completely different worlds, So if you can sort of branch those two generations together and sort of put the differences aside, and I think just learn to relate to people and just try to see a different perspective than your own. I think that's a major first step, is just at least trying to see a different perspective. You're not going to get everybody to, come together and we're going to have this big, kumbaya planet. I wish we did. But, I think the first step is this, to try to get people to see, where you're coming from, and I will try to see where he's coming from. I can't pretend like I know the world he's from.
Yeah.
But, I could try to sort of show him this world now, and see that people are just people, and
exactly.
There's no reason to hate each other. There is no reason to hate each other, like, truly. So yeah.
100% agree. Let's talk about TK a little bit. There are so many, scenes throughout the show that tell us a lot about him and his father, of course. And one of the things that was very interesting about him was when he was questioning his profession, if it's really the way he wanted to go. And figuring yourself out is like something that can be, like a lifelong process. So I was wondering, are you also still, figuring yourself out?
As me, as Ronen?
Yeah.
No, I'm going to be completely honest. I don't think so. I think over the past years, I've grown exponentially, and I think that's just sort of the circumstances that I'm in, and sort of the environment that I'm in. And I grew up a very bad kid and had to sort of survive in a way. So I didn't have much choice, sort of the influence of my surroundings. And for the first time ever, the past few years, I've had choice, and I've had the luxury of deciding what I want to do, what I want to focus on, what I find is important to me, what I love, what I care about. And I think over the past years, I've sort of clicked into the person that I think I want to be, and I think I want people to be able to take from and to be inspired by. And you know, I'm in a very much in a position where I'm locked in. I think I'm very locked in on what I want to achieve. You know, obviously there's so much more room to grow, but I think I have a very clear idea of what I want to accomplish, how I want people to, you know, see me and take me in. So yeah, I don't know if TK's there yet. I don't think
Right.
I don't think he has the luxury of that. He has a much different situation than I do. But he's trying to find himself, you know. He's every single episode, it feels like, you know, something new comes up and he's trying to figure himself out. Every single episode pretty much. You know, I mean, I literally just became a paramedic after,
Right,
you know,
exactly.
after the season finale. I was still wrestling of what I even want to do with my life. So, you know, it's I'm so grateful that the writers are giving me so much to play with and so much to, you know, to do. Yeah, he's definitely on I think he's on the right path. It's just, you know, he has a very complicated life.
Absolutely. And speaking of life decisions or decisions in general, of course, if TK would have decided that the profession as a firefighter is not for him, or in other words, sometimes it's very easy to make a life decision that isn't really yours, but, you know, like,
Yeah.
the result of other people, and sometimes you don't even find out after years later that it wasn't really you, but the voice of others. So whenever you make a decision, how do you make sure that it's 100% yours and not influenced by any other voices?
Man, you got good questions, man. Jesus.
Don't make me blush.
You know, a lot of it is sort of following my gut, following my instinct. And then I think it comes down to sort of like, what's the goal? You know, what's the end goal from the decisions that I make? You know, if it's something that, you know, is coming from the heart and is, you know, honest, I think it just feels right, you know, and it feels like the right decision. But then again, you know, there's stuff that I take from others that I'm inspired by, or, you know, I have grown an immense amount of respect for. And, you know, I sometimes look at, you know, what they've done in their lives and what they've done in their careers. And I sort of, you know, I'm very much a sponge. I like taking stuff that I feel is right and good. And, you know, I'm always open to being inspired, and sort of putting that into my own, like, decision making, I guess. But I think if it comes from a good, honest place, and, you know, I think the end goal is to do something good, and again, if there's a, you know, if there's a layer of love in it, I think it'll feel right in your gut, and you just gotta trust yourself. You know, you know, the career that I've chosen is a very much trust yourself sort of thing. And, you know, there's no promises, there's not much help. You sort of have to believe in yourself years before anybody else will. So, you know, you just sort of follow your gut and hope that, you know, the intentions are good. And I think, you know, things should work out, hopefully.
Yeah, of course. And what about, I mean, there's you know, like a scene also where Owen kind of reveals his when he found his sense of purpose, you know, when he spoke about the girl on the beach. So I was wondering, is that, you know, the question, what is my purpose, what is my sense of purpose, was that ever a question you asked yourself?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Especially when I got some sort of, you know, platform and some sort of voice in this business. You know, sort of like, well, what am I going to use it for? Is it going to be for self-gain and for, you know, vanity and for clout? Or is it going to be, you know, to try to do something, you know, to try to help somebody, to try to, you know, there's a million things that we could do right now to make the world a better place. And, you know, I think it all clicked for me in 2016. I saw Leonardo DiCaprio's documentary. It's called Before the Flood.
Right.
And I never knew that Leo, maybe the biggest movie star in the world, dedicated his whole life to fighting climate change and to fighting, global warming. And I was like, oh my God, like this guy is doing this. And I was like, this makes the most sense to me. It's like, we're all humans. We all live on one planet. Our planet is doing not good at all. And, if we have, influence and power with what we do, why wouldn't I want to help?
Right.
So that was sort of, I felt like things started to click in 2016. And, in 2016, I did my very first TV show. So I sort of, started developing this, celebrity and had a voice for the first time and had a decent sized platform. And I was like, well, this is going to be my thing. And, if people don't like it, they could follow somebody else. There's millions of people out there that just post selfies and their expensive cars and their jewelry. And, that's fine. That's their decision. But I just never felt like that was sort of something I wanted to spend my time and energy on, especially with the world that we live in right now. If the world was perfect and we lived in a utopia, then maybe, I'd post me in my car and all that bullshit. But it's just not the reality of the world that we live in right now. And, I think we need all hands on deck, and we need people to come together faster than ever. So that was sort of, I felt like that was my purpose. And, I've luckily been able to, really expand on that and, work with some unbelievable companies. And, as my voice continues to grow, my sort of reach continues to grow, and I'm able to do more and more. So yeah, I'm very fortunate to have found something that I'm ready to dedicate my life to, almost 5 years ago. And, I know a lot of people are still sort of searching what their purpose is, but I think I'm very lucky to sort of have found that thing that I could put all of my time and energy into.
Right. And there's one line that I really like, in the first episode of season 2. It's when, the guy in the tank drives towards the group and Owen goes like, we promised to never forget, and we did.
Yeah.
It's so true, because sometimes I feel like something bad happens. Of course, you make then all promises, and then for whatever reason, years later, it kind of fades away. So in your opinion, what are the things from today that we should absolutely not forget in years from now?
I think we should never forget. I mean, it's extremely recent and we're still living in it. I don't think we should ever forget what we learned from 2020. Obviously COVID, and that sort of, I think, taught a lot of people, what's truly important to us. We've had so much time to sit and think about stuff and to reflect, probably more than ever. And you have to sort of take those lessons that you learned from just sitting in your own thoughts and feelings and never forget that. Because I think there was, it was the worst time maybe ever, but, I think there was a lot of room for growth and a lot of room to sort of learn about yourself and learn about, what you truly care about and what you want to hold on to, and then obviously what happened, with the racial sort of uprising that we've had, I think we can't forget about that, and I feel like people, especially in the celebrity culture, they have a very short memory. They'll be screaming about Black Lives Matter for a couple months, and then as soon as the media sort of dies down, they'll forget about it. And then they move right on. And, they'll completely forget everything that we fought for and everything that, they were being so loud about. As soon as it's not a hot topic, they go back to their own lives, and they go back to,
to the next
continuing to the next thing, or even continuing to just Instagram about, their own stuff and their cars and their clothes and their jewelry. And, I feel like people have a short-term memory when it comes to really important stuff. And you know, it was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He said, being an activist is a lifelong job, not a summer job. And, you know, I think if you're dedicated, if you're going to dedicate your life to something like that, truly dedicate yourself, you know. And I think you see that happening more and more. Like last night, like the thing that got passed in the House, you know, it could literally be the most important bill that has ever been passed in the history of police brutality and the relationship with, you know, with Black people and police enforcement. And nobody was talking about it. It was completely silence. You know, it was, the only people reporting on it were reporters.
Right.
You know, it was trending on Twitter for a little bit, and then it wasn't. And it's like, you know, this is what we were fighting for. We were fighting for change, and we were fighting for, you know, actual laws to be implemented. And now when we're one step away from it becoming a law, people are all of a sudden like, oh, I didn't hear about it, or I didn't realize this happened.
Yes,
you know, so
exactly. Yeah.
There's a lot of I just feel like we need to lose this sort of short-term memory thing that we have as a society, and you know, as people of influence and people of power. You know, we really have to hold on to the things that are happening when, you know, when things are really dark and sad. And, you know, and it was, in a way, it was beautiful. You saw people come together for the first time, maybe ever, in that, you know, in that sort of world. And we just can't lose that. You know, we can't let our foot off the pedal, because that's sort of when change and evolution starts to stop. And we need to keep going forward. So that's sort of what I hope we can learn from, and to never forget. You can never forget this kind of stuff. You know, obviously, you know, you want to forget and you're like, oh, worst year ever. I didn't, you know, my plans didn't go according to plan. I couldn't go on vacation. I couldn't see my friends. But it's like, there were such amazing things that we were able to take from this year. Yeah. And it was very difficult to get there. You know, it was very difficult to get there. So I hope people don't forget what they learned, and sort of not take life for granted when things go back to normal. Because we saw obviously how quickly things could change.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Ronen, I want to thank you very much for joining us today. All the best.
Thank you, man.
Of course. And yeah, hopefully next time.
Next time, and then one day in person. I love Germany, man. I've spent so much time there.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. Your questions were very, very, very interesting, man. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ronen. Thanks very much. And have a great sunny day.
Yes, I shall.
Thank you.
Thank you. See ya.